Hello everybody, and welcome to our last lesson on product planning. This is lesson 6.3. We're going to be talking about prototypes and product testing specifically. So the objective of this lesson is to analyze issues with a hypothetical product to suggest ways to improve production challenges, including a new prototype and more organized product testing. We are going to review the design thinking process, and we're going to explain prototyping and testing. Now, first off, let's start with some possible challenges that may occur during the production and inventory stages of a product. Things like inaccurate purchase orders that can lead to more or fewer products than desired. Sales volume decreases during the stage of the product lifecycle. They decline, but inventory remains high. Inaccurate sales forecast, too much inventory, no inventory control. You got to make sure that you've got include in your budget how to manage your inventory. What happens if the products are stuck in receive? Warehouses need to have efficient ways to inspect the products and store them before sending them to stores. And long lead time is another possible challenge. Manufacturers may take a long time to produce your goods, so you got to be aware of that as you're going through your product life cycle and your production. So feel free to pause this video for a moment and think of any other challenges that may occur. All right, so we're going to switch gears slightly. We're going to review another topic, something that we have talked about before, which is the design thinking process. This is an iterative, non-linear process for creative problem solving, and there's 5 stages to it. So let's go through them very quickly. First is to empathize. This is where you research your user's needs. Next is define. This is where you state your user's needs and problems. Ideate. This is where you challenge assumptions and you start to create ideas as to how to solve those problems. Next is the prototype. This is where you start to create solutions and you start designing a product. And finally, test. This is where you try your solutions out. And so you can kind of see from this diagram here that even though it's a 5-stage process, things can kind of go back and forth. You may empathize to come up with an idea, you define the problem, but you also come up with your idea for your prototype. As you test your prototype, you may have to go back, redefine your ideas. This going back and forth, this is what makes it iterative and non-linear. So the remainder of this lesson, this short lesson, this is going to cover the 2 specific areas of prototyping and testing. So a prototype. This is an early version or a sample of a product, a system, or a concept. You create this to test and validate things like functionality, design, and usability. It is developed when new products are created to help test the market, and it's also where you produce some inexpensive scaled down version of the product or specific features found within the product. Once you've created your prototype, you have to test it. This is basically, does the product do what it's supposed to do? And how would people interact with the product in the real world? It gives a chance to provide you quantitative metrics and evidence and qualitative emotions and reactions based on your product. And your results can be used to redefine one or more problems so that you can then fix. It also helps to reduce the risk of product failure. And one thing you need to be aware of when you're testing is, does the cost of the testing, is the forecasted sales outweigh the cost of the testing? Something to consider when you're working on it. And very often when you are testing marketing, operations, distribution channels, and inventory plans, these are all done concurrently while you are testing. Testing helps align the product to the target market. For example, you want to test in the geographic area of a target market. All right, so that is our brief lesson on prototyping and testing, and our last lesson in our unit on product development.